I'd like to welcome you. Thank you very much, Mr. Alvin Yeung. Is that the correct way to pronounce your name?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Great. I really appreciate you joining us. I know you were on the IVLP program a couple of months ago, and we're looking at public engagement and grassroots organizations in the U.S. Within the context of political campaigns.
That's correct.
Great. And you are the chairman of the Civic Party's Economy and Public Finance branch in Hong Kong, correct?
That's correct.
As well as the vice chairman of the party's New Territories East branch and a member of the executive committee.
That's right.
I understand in 2012 you were elected to the chief executive election committee, which made you part of only about 1,100 people who get to actually select Hong Kong's chief executive.
Oh yes, I was the privileged class.
Wonderful. And I understand you may be part of the nominating committee in 2017.
Well, that we don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I can give you a bit more of the details in a minute.
That would be great. I mean, I think this shows that there's a lot for Americans to understand about the political situation in Hong Kong, how it differs from democracy that we are familiar with, and how it differs from the rest of China's political structure. So maybe you could give us a little more insight.
Sure. Perhaps I can start from a general overview of what Hong Kong is going through, or the basic background of our democratic system here. For the executive branch, the top office is the chief executive, and he is not directly elected by the general public of Hong Kong. And as you have mentioned earlier, in 2012, the President Chief Executive was elected by 1,200 people, and he got 689 votes out of this 1,200. Now, this is precisely what the gist of what we have been going on in the current umbrella, what you call the Western media call as the umbrella revolution. We call it a movement. We try to avoid the word of revolution. Because there is going to be a constitutional reform package that will have to pass through the Legislative Council that is equivalent to your Congress, but just that we have only got one branch of legislature instead of two, like the US. And in the package, the Chinese government imposed some conditions that is what at least what we the opposition or the pan-democratics that we believe more of the liberal ideas, and we say we don't want a vetting system. But however, the Chinese government or the Chinese People's Congress, they in the end of August they posed a package or a interpretation of the basic law that is for the 2017 chief executive, there has to be a nominating committee, which is okay because that is stipulated in the basic law. However, for any candidate to be chosen by the people to go public under universal suffrage, that candidate has to gain at least 50%, over 50% of support from the nominating committee. And that is where the problem comes from, because how we structure the nominating committee is the gist of the problem or the issue, right? And currently, the Chinese government say we have to model the 2017 one to the 2012 one. And how do you structure this 1,200 people? Well, currently, for myself, I come from the legal sector because I am a lawyer. And we have 30 members from the legal sector. And we were elected by every qualified lawyer in Hong Kong. However, this doesn't go throughout the whole community or the society. That is to say, not everyone gets a vote in the nominating committee. To keep it simple, as a matter of fact, there were only around 270,000 1,000 people in Hong Kong who were able to elect or to choose a representative in the election committee in 2017. And if the same method repeats in 2017, that means only a bunch of small group of people, less than 5% of Hong Kong citizens, will be able to choose their own nominating committee member. And these people will handpick a candidate first before the general public does. So that is basically the structure or an overview of what has been going on in Hong Kong, because that triggers the younger generation, the students mainly, to go to the street and start to occupying the major streets in Hong Kong to voice out and to protest. And as a matter of fact, it has been going on for 40-odd days. So that's a basic overview of Hong Kong.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like the main issue that the students in particular are protesting are the nominating committee, the structure of how the nominating committee...
Sorry, Beth, I start losing your voice. I'm sorry, can you repeat your question again?
Sure. It sounds like the main issue that the students are protesting are how the nominating committees are chosen. Is that right?
They're protesting what? Sorry?
How the nominating committee is selected?
That's correct. And one of the main issues or one of the main concerns that the students are asking for is a civic nomination. That is, instead of or alongside the nominating committee, the citizens can have their own choice of who the candidates will be, and we call it the civic nomination.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that a little bit.
Yeah.
Are there other aspects that the students are demonstrating against, or that's pretty much the main gist?
I would say that's the tipping point of the present occupation movement. Of course, in the past 17 years, since 1997, since Hong Kong was handed over back to China from the British, there has been countless social problems going on in Hong Kong. Of course, the social gap between the wealthies and the poor is a universal issue, but Hong Kong is one of the most expensive cities in the world, and you could imagine for the lower class or the underprivileged people, they have a slightly more difficulty to climb up the social ladder. And the youngsters, the younger students, they witness what has been going on in the past decades, and they know that if this still is going on, no one will have a good future except those privileged. So this is, if we look at it from the social angle, this is one of it.
Great, thank you for explaining that a little bit more. The media here has said that it seems like China's policy with the protests is basically to just let it run its course, that the students will be so disruptive that everyday people in Hong Kong will just eventually grow tired of it and the protests will die out. Is that the way it's presented to you as well, and do you think that the protests are disrupting everyday life in Hong Kong?
I somewhat agree with the statement that you have just made up to this few days. In the past week, a few parties have lodged a case in the High Court of Hong Kong seeking an injunction. What is that about? That is to injunct the students and protesters from occupying these roads of Hong Kong. And this injunction was granted a couple of days ago from the High Court. So we anticipate that the bailiff will start to execute the injunction order, and the court has also authorized the police to assist the bailiff to execute this order in case there's anyone trying to obstruct the course of execution. Of course, you may argue that the police, in any event, under normal circumstances, could execute what they were assigned to do. That is, simply by occupying the roads in Hong Kong is an illegal act. That is no doubt. But this police, they have been doing absolutely nothing since day one. Well, except firing all these tear gases. That's another matter. But I would say in the next week or so, there will be something, a change in the on field, and I'm afraid there will be some violence going on.
It seems like everyone has been fairly committed to being nonviolent, so that's an interesting aspect that we'll have to look for and hopefully can be avoided in the coming weeks.
I very much hope so, but I have absolutely no idea how the other side, that is the pro-establishment camp, will do. We have reasonable evidence, we have reasonable suspicion based upon some evidence to suggest that in the first week or so, some gangsters connected to the pro-establishment camp, they tried to disrupt the occupation movement by employing these gangsters to simply to trouble, or to be there and disrupt the occupation field. So I have no idea if this exercise will repeat in the next week or so.
Right. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yep.
Do you think that the students will be successful, or do you think there are other ways to bring about changes to the nominating committee without the protests?
That is the hardest question I can answer.
That's why I...
Yes, I very much hope they could succeed, but we have to be perfectly realistic here to look at it from the fact that we are not facing a democratic government, and not to mention there is the Chinese government behind the Hong Kong government, and whether the Chinese government is willing to compromise, especially as I mentioned earlier that they have made a decision to impose a rather conservative election method by the Chinese People's Congress. So whether they will lift that condition, that remains uncertain. But if you look at Chinese past record, the Chinese government's past record, I am not entirely optimistic. But having said that, I still believe that the present movement, the past 40-odd days, have completely changed the next generation and the generation after. If you go to the street, you find out all these youngsters, from university students to secondary students, they're hopeful and they know what they're doing, and they have been got this opportunity to express their strong eagerness of a genuine democracy. So even if next week or the week after this movement has to come to an end, I am still perfectly 100% confident that in the years to come, Hong Kong will have to come to a change, and the major force would be the students on the street right now.
Well, that's excellent. It's very interesting to see everything unfolding, and I really appreciate your taking time to talk with us and explain the situation in a little more depth.
My pleasure.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I would say thank you for the support from people around the world, people in the States. I understand in the past few weeks we have been one of the focuses of the world, and I hope we Hong Kong people will not let you down, and I'm sure we'll have more to do in the future.
Wonderful. Well, we'll keep watching and sending good wishes.
Pray for us.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate
Thank you again.
your time with us. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.